Hey guys, last video I did some commentary for some matches, and I ended up realizing that I shouldn't really do commentary for every match. So what I did this time was I took a look at all my videos, well, all my matches from my climb to champion, and I picked up a few matches that I thought would go along with kind of a theme. So the theme this time is picking FCC into your counters and then how well she does into them. So as you can see on my screen, these are my FCC stats, and I hope you enjoy the video. For the first match, I decided to pre-ban Dain and Rimuru, and first pick Gonk. I tried FCC at first pick a bunch, and I realized that showing your hand so early with the FCC pick is really vulnerable to stuff like AOL hand guy early. And here, my opponent decides to go for APOC and Ran for their first two picks. And in response, I do Designer Lilibet and FCC. At the time, I thought this was actually a really good pick, the FCC, because it provides mitigation against the cleave, as well as providing the barriers and the skill null to prevent Iravi from getting easy reds off. But in hindsight, I think that the issue with my first three picks right now is that they kind of get 1v3'd by APOC. Conk does provide the vigor and the dual attacks, but that's kind of random, and it's not really reliable at dealing with APOC. So I'm kind of forced into a situation where my fourth pick and my fifth pick need to be something that can handle APOC. So for example, something like Alencia, Landy, or S10A. But Alencia's even banned here, so I don't even have that option. Whereas instead of FCC, if I did something like Amelia, I can be a little bit more flexible in my DPS. Like I can do something like Closer Charles and Sylvian Sage Vivian maybe. So my opponent goes for both FCC counters here, OPSIG and DJB, and I don't really think that's a good idea just because they kind of do the same thing each other does. And if one of them does their thing, the other one can't. So for instance, if DJB, which I'm assuming is speed tuned to be faster than OPSIG, goes first and inverts the barrier, OPSIG doesn't have a barrier to S2 off anymore. And like I mentioned earlier, I needed to pick two DPS that can deal with Iravi here, but the problem is the OPSIG and DJB picks kind of threw me off, so I thought they were going for a little bit of a cleave, and I just ended up picking Sage Val here instead, which, as you can see, is a pretty big mistake, because if they get rid of S10A, I cannot get 1v4. I will get 1v4 by APOC, especially since they also have two units that give immunity. So APOC is kind of a forced ban for me at the moment, but the issue is they also have fifth pick, and they're gonna fifth pick something that I must ban as well. It's actually gonna be a little bit of spoilers of Huayan. And you see, if they ban SNA, I need to ban both APOC and Huayan because my team can't really handle either one of them right now. So this was definitely a big draft gap, and my mistake was actually just picking FCC turn 3. And as you can see, my opponent does an instant S10A ban. And on to the match. Ran takes turn 1 as expected, and this is a Shimantra staff DJB and a non-guiding light OPSIG. So she's probably most likely on a DPS like Portrait or Misha. So Ran props RNL here, which lets him hit Kong twice. Obviously, he's not going to S3 here just because if he does, he'll proc my Lilibet, will push my team up, and then his OPSIG will be able to enter. So here, I have the decision on whether or not I should S2 here. Obviously, shipping the immunity right now is nice, but DJB is going to put them back up. So I'm kind of in a game of chicken where, well, between my Sage Ball and his DJB on who is going to use disco first, and I kind of fold and S2 in a way, which I think definitely was a mistake. I think I could have held on to it and strip the immunity off later, because here, like once say DJB puts up immunity again, there's nothing for me to do. My stage wall is just a completely dead pick. So here I decided to go for a pushback on OPSIG. It's kind of pointless because DJB is going to push up 30% and cleanse it all anyway, but I wanted OPSIG to go after APOP because they really want to have to deal with an attack while they want. So DJB inverse the barrier and then pushes against me. And like I mentioned in draft, this is I think one of the issues with running OPSIG with DJB and Ren, just because the barrier is gone. Like there's nothing for her to S2 here. And I think she's just gonna S3. Yep, there it is.
Data analysis complete. Now disappear.
Pushes my team back a little, and here my FCC is S3. And I needed to hold my little bit S3 as well, just because Ren hadn't used his S3 yet. Here, I think I should have just S1'd into Ren and gotten rid of him instead of dealing with OPSIG, just because my conk is going to lap the OPSIG anyway, and right now, without the barriers, she's not scared at all. Well, there's one barrier on conk, but you'll see why I should have gotten rid of Ransom, because he R-nails once, gets S2, S1's my conk, and yep. It's gone, R-nails again, and at this point it's pretty much GG. There's no way for me to deal with APOC here. And yeah, Yumi gets lucky stun. And I kind of just hang around a little and press some buttons, but yeah, it's pretty much over at this point.
I'll deal with this. I will open the doors to hell.
Now on to match 2. So I'm second pick, so I pre-ban Conk and Rimuru. I know I heard the dying here, but I'm gonna ban Rimuru. And my opponent bans Lermia and Huang, so I'm guessing he wanted to first pick Conk, and I managed to snipe it away with my pre-ban. So he first picks Hand Guy here, and I go for FCC and AOL. Obviously, picking AOL into Hand Guy seems a little sus, but I'll rather have this matchup than let them have both Hand Guy and AOL into FCC. And here, my opponent does APOC Ravi and Bellion. So maybe the Lermia ban wasn't for the conk, but because he wanted to pick Bellion. And here, because he's picking 2 HP% boozers, I decided to go for Sharon. I'm actually trying to set up an SSB pick later on, because SSB just does really good into Bellion. Because Bellion S1, S2 will proc SSB a lot. And it might seem a little sus to pick Sharon into Malric, but I heard from one of my guildies that he actually thinks this matchup is not that bad, just because once you get over the initial S3, you can kind of like cycle back, because he provides all the buffs, right? So you kind of cycle back, and then after his first S3 is done, you can just kind of like perma lock him down and keep resetting his cooldowns. So I also decided to pair my Sharon with an Alencia, just because Alencia can strip away all the immunity, helps my Sharon get going faster, and she also does okay into these rescaling cruisers like APOC and Bellion. And also she provides death buff, which makes going on really good. So here my opponent does S10A and OPSIG, and I do SSB. So to, I guess, break down this OPSIG pick a little, I think this OPSIG pick was actually really bad, just because he's most likely not taking turn 1. My AOL is probably going to outspeed his OSIG. And even if his hand guy does outspeed my AOL is going to silence the OSIG again. So he kind of has to ban AOL to get any value out of OSIG. But I'm going to pick SSB here, which is kind of a forced ban for him. So he has to ban SSB or lose, in my opinion. Or he needs to ban AOL so that his OSIG can get any value, which I don't think is actually I think this OSIG pick was kind of rough if you don't have first pick and you're first pick, so you might need to ban the fifth pick. Or if you don't have turn 1 and your first pick, so you need to ban the fifth pick. Like a combination of those two makes drafting OSIG pretty rough. Especially if it's on Guiding Light, which she isn't. So what ends up happening is my AOL takes turn 1 and she just pushes the OSIG back, and my SC is gonna go provoke her, my lens is gonna go kill her, and then just step it. So she goes back, hand guy goes. He's not gonna S3 here just because if he does, my AOL is gonna strip it off, and his OSIG is already a dead pick in the water anyway. Like, even if she cuts Valencia here, like, there's still gonna be the Escanol she has to deal with. Well, I guess Apex can break it, but
I'll deal with this.
but Valencia's gonna take a turn before, so it sucks to suck. Sharon goes. I decided to rip the S3 just because with a 50% CR, I can actually cut before hand guy goes and then reset his S3 cooldown. So I rip it and then I apply slow down, guaranteed, as well as then, put in this counter here, and my lens is gonna take a turn and just poop the OSIG out of existence. So here Bellion goes, and she's gonna S3. I think this actually pushes back my Sharon, which is kind of unfortunate because I am running 100% here on her, and she's not roll effectiveness buff. As you can see, she resisted the provoke, right? But she didn't resist the pushback, and as a result, a hand guy was able to take a turn before Sharon and get his S3 off, which is really unfortunate, but it's okay unless they can strip the buffs anyway. Later on in the match, you'll see that my Sharon actually does end up resisting like everything that Bellion throws at her, so that was definitely a little unlucky on my end. So here I have Sharon, and I think it's an injury Bellion, so I hit APOC because I'm a daring boy, you know. I should have just hit the Bellion there. So, so Sharon goes, and unless it's gonna strip all the buffs away, so my Sharon can start putting the venom down. Burst again, and guide this strip. But it's okay, because I'm AOL, and AOL is going to strip it. Rage.
The door will remain closed. At least to you it will. Step back, flies.
So, I think this is a Crimson Seed Epoch, and Shane doesn't get the.
Do I look like a pushover to you?
Shane didn't get the venom there. I think if I got the venom there, I would have just sent it into the Epoch there. Because like one thing like you can do with Crimson Seed is because all 4 of my units all provide a debuff, it's eventually going to overload the Crimson Seed. So like the debuffs will stick. So either Alliance's Death Break will stick, Shannon's Venom will stick, and those are all pretty crippling for Epoch. And I get really unlucky there. I missed the defense break on the Bellion.
If you're scared,
and Hanga goes here.
Run.
So here I think I go for a reset on the hand guy. I increase the CD by 1. And I also get quick damage buff on my Valencia. But unfortunately she is blinded, so that's kind of rough. My FCC goes. I'm thinking of putting up Sylvan here to prevent an around S3. I think this kind of like spooks me a little. I think what I should have done here is I should have kept going on using my Sharon to keep resetting the hand guy, but I kind of panic and I go for like a Prage on the Arabi. So here I'm just full sending it into Valiant because she's on Elvis. So here I see that the Arabi has S3, and I think I just panic and I try to reset her. Notably, even though she Crimson Seeded the Venom, I still reset her right now. But I definitely should have gone for a hand guy reset here because I think this hand guy S3 is going to be pretty rough for me. And I never proc the thing. But she procs S2, S3. Well, that's one S2. I have S3 again. Yeah, you see, Hanga has S2 now, but before, Hanga actually managed to get an S2 off this match, which is really rough for me. So I should have just kept resetting him instead. So here I go for the Belly kill, force him crit, and I apply some injury onto Hanga. So he has S2 now. And here I'm panicking a little because I don't know with this frenzy if APOC can maybe punch out my AOL. And here I end up proccing the Randall, so yeah, that's a Hanga cut, and he managed to get a 3-turn immunity plus attack buff, which is super rough for me. I don't think Alencia's S2 is ready compared to Hanga. So this attack buff lets him, I think, kill the AOL. And AOL's gone, and he brings back Valiant. See, even if he brought back Osa here, we're just gonna like tapped by the Alencia anyway. So here my Shen is in a pickle. I don't think I should S3 here. I think I should S this one. Definitely I made a lot of mistakes here. Like this is one of my few times using Sharon. So I'm not really experienced on like what to do. And I think from this match, well at least this review, I definitely should have just kept resetting hand guy so that my other units can manage buffs. Like for example, defense break on Alencia is so good to so good against APOC. And I got lucky and I crit twice. I managed to kill the villain off, and here I could have hit anyone's balance, but I think I should have hit Arabi instead, just because the hand guy push also makes him push Arabi up. I'm gonna S3 here. Well, I've been talking so much about Shan that I'm neglecting one of the units that I've been testing, which is FCC. And I think FCC had like so much value in this match. The constant barriers, I think, made it really hard for him to focus on one unit. Like for example, when he started hitting Sharon, like the barriers would pop up, and then he would switch to AOL, and then he would switch to FCC. So here I go for S3, put up defense buff. I think it doesn't really matter. I think FCC is dead to APOC regardless here. S3 here. And again, I should have gone for the reset hand guy, I think. Actually, no, that reset on APOC was definitely good. I think it put him her, so she didn't get necessary. And yeah, we're going to defensive 6 now. This game is actually, and also, well, a lot of stuff happened that I didn't think would happen. Definitely, I didn't think APOC FCC would live there. And again, that's the value of FCC against Arabi, right? Like the barriers keep coming up and making it hard for her to take that. So S1, Folk, Shen.
The word clueless is an apt descriptor for the likes of you.
Is the next one. See this.
Deal with this.
Yes, FCC is still chugging here. So here I think I have Soulburn, but I definitely should have Soulburn here because it's going to get Crimson Seed anyway. Yeah, this is a big mistake. I think the stall match is kind of got in my head. Also, this is Crimson Seeded, and then anything gets applied. And here I go for Woke. And this is down. Count. And here I S3. Apply 2 buffs. Maybe I should have gone for a reset again here. So yeah, no something too. But I was thinking, oh, like the Primacy is gone, my Valencia is gonna just defense break, finish her, but unfortunately the defense break did not connect. So Era removes the sliver, and she has S3 up, and she sends it into my Sharon, which is gonna bring back Handguy, I think. And yeah, it's kind of like that. I think he has S3 up again, by the way. So yes, well, he has twos, and then he's gonna laugh in this turn.
If you're scared, run.
So that area is rough.
In this distorted world, I will write
That's
new
poison way. And now here I'm just kind of
ends here.
attack buff, soul burns.
Stop bothering
Whiffs the crit, baby. I should have emoted here, but I think my Valencia is just so deep in the vending that she can just take out the buff right here with this assist. Yep, and it's done. And then Handguy will do come out into here. And it's gonna be a soul burn as well as 2. Oh, and I win. Yeah, it's definitely a long match. Sharon, I think could have smurfed if I played with her a little bit better. And yeah, FCC definitely showing her value in long games like these. So for the next match, I am first pick, so I decided to leave Conk up and pre-ban Bayin, and my opponent pre-bans AOL and Estene, so I get to first pick Conk. And here I think my opponent does Handguy and Fire. Handguy is pretty good to Conk because he can cleanse attack down and Direct Provoke, and pairing him with Wild is also really strong because with the cleanse and the immunity, we kind of guarantee that Wild can get an S3 off, and he also provides attack buff. So you're gonna have to deal with S3 from a Wild that has attack buff. And my response to this is I do FCC and OPSIG. I really like this pairing because not only are you picking FCC, you're also taking away from her counters, and you're not just taking away the counter for the sake of taking it away. OPSIG is also really good into Wild. So whenever I see Wild, I really like to do FCC plus OPSIG. And here my opponent does, I think, DJB and Violet. So what he's looking to do is have DJB go, invert the barriers, push up his team, and then with attack buff on his Wild and his Violet, he's going to try to snipe to your opponent. And naturally, this game plan for my opponent is really single target heavy, so I decided to go for Guiding Light Landy and Amelia. I would have done S10A, but I think my opponent pre-banned S10A, and why I went for Amelia is because I think she can provide attack buff for OSIG, do a speed contest in case they pre-ban my Conk, and she has Guardian Ice Crystals, which makes it hard for Wild to one-shot stuff because Guardian Ice Crystals proc for the base. So here I think my opponent does Fire Shard, and with the Fire Shard locked in, it looks like he's probably going to try to pre-ban my Bandy. So I just pre-ban my OSIG and fight Bandy with 2 fires. So I just pre-ban Fire Shard and the game starts. So the first thing I noticed is that the Violet is pretty slow, and I think he's actually below 70 or close to 70%. So even if DJB pushes him up with this pushback from Conk, he still won't take a turn and refresh his EVA buff. So I wanted to push it back and then have Amelia go and push up Bandy and one shot the Violet. But he resisted the he resists the pushback as well as the strip, so that plan is DJB goes, inverts the barriers, and then he pushes on his team. So now I'm gonna have to deal with an attack buff on Wyon, and Wyon S3, Rad S3, the whole shebang. Fortunately, I do have Vigor, so it makes it easy for me to. Well, what was it? It makes it easy. It makes it hard for him to one-shot my Amelia. I think without Vigor, Violet could definitely one-shot the Amelia, and Wyon can one-shot the FCC. So Huan goes into Amelia, says, I don't think it matters too much since I was something going into it anyway. Guard as Crystal
How
pops,
long do you
Violet
think you
is
can
just
last?
presence 3 of Amelia,
Your life
and she gets out.
means nothing.
So here my FCC goes, and she's going to S3. Well, no, I think I should have S3 here. I don't know why I have this bad habit of avoiding S3. When my landing goes and with bigger buff, she moves into the entire enemy team. They have limitations, it's definitely going to hurt. Unfortunately, Violet dodges this one, but I think I crit the Huan.
If you're scared, run.
And now Hand Guys goes, and he's going to S2 my FCC and strip away the barrier. I think he's going to try to take out my FCC first. But I think that's a mistake because once FCC goes down, Conk is going to only bring Landy, and with all the buffs, Landy's going to cycle like crazy and just spam S2s. He gets a pretty nasty dual attack and stuns my Conk. And here my landing S3s. I think it crits right this time. It does, and it just cleanly kills the shield. And now I only have to deal with Huan and Hand Guy. I put up S3. I don't really think this matters too much because Hand Guy is going to pop it before Huan goes anyway.
I'll do anything.
And there goes into my FCC. I think this actually was a mistake. I think he probably could have killed my Conk. Yes, definitely could have killed my Conk. And I think with FCC and Landy, I would actually lose to Huan and.
Are you prepared for this?
I never fight a losing battle.
It's only natural that I'd win